especially to have geometric growth over the long run. So most people know this is they want to get more clients. How do I get more money? I get more clients. I get more clients through the door, and that's how my business is going to grow, or whatever it may be. I get more of my widgets sold. They don't take into account the other two real questions that you want to be asking yourself is how much does the client actually spend on each widget? How long do I have them for? So how often do they buy, and how much are they buying? So it's really a two-part. You can tie it into one, but it's how do I get them to buy more, and how do I get them to buy more often?
A few thousand degrees with a Lava Hot podcast and host Joseph Connell Jr. You'll hear from ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things, from tech startup CEOs and marketing professionals to authors, investors, and sales trainers. This show will be packed with information to help you level up in life or business, taking you from on fire up to lava hot. Get ready to burn this mother down.
Hello and welcome to the Lava Hot Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Connell. Today we are going to be talking about increasing revenue. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. As many of you guys know, if you've listened to any of my episodes, I often talk about the fact that I've worked with over 500 companies, about 40 different industries, and they all have one thing in common. They want to increase revenue. The individual that I have coming on today is a young entrepreneur that is a strategic advisor in helping businesses grow their revenue. Let me give you a quick little intro about Daniel. Daniel is a strategic performance advisor that helps business owners improve their productivity, sales, business growth plan by implementing innovative, customized, and strategic checklists into their business so that you don't have to sacrifice your time and energy going in the wrong direction. Daniel, welcome to the Lava Hot Podcast.
I appreciate you having me on, Joseph. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. So as I said, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. I work with a number of businesses, just helping them drive the needle. Specifically, for me, I always start with the marketing side and then tailor in some of the sales side just to try to boost revenue. But this conversation is not about me. I want to hear about what Daniel does when he's working with a business. Daniel, if you don't mind, before we dive into what you do for businesses, if you could give me a little bit of your background and just how you kind of arrived to this spot of working with businesses day in and day out, helping them implement strategies into their business to grow their revenue. I would love that. I
appreciate you having me on, like I said, and it's an honor to be here. A little bit about myself is I started my first fitness business around 2018, 2019, towards the end. I had my fair share of hiring coaches, consultants, business advisors, asking friends. I was always looking. I'm a very curious man. I ask a lot of questions. Hopefully they're good questions. And I found out sooner than later is that a lot of information out there is generic, one size fits all, and you really have to test it to see where it goes. Over time, I've realized that I actually enjoyed, I give this example from childhood. I enjoyed building the Legos over playing with the Legos. I personally just enjoyed getting into the nitty gritty. I like the details, and I obviously enjoy the outcome that I'm able to help others get. So the reason why I did this is because I've hired my fair share. I spent over 50 grand in one-on-one consulting and all these different areas. And I realized that they're actually having a lot of the fun directing, but some of them really just didn't have strategies in place. And I was like, hey, how can I speed up the result for someone else? But more importantly, make them not have to go through the same amount of time that I went through, the same amount of money that I went through, the same amount of sacrifice on weekends and hanging out with friends and family. And I put together these very simple systems that work for, I don't say work for everybody, because the reality is it doesn't. It works for very specific people that are trying to get more clients through the door, high value clients, people that are willing to pay them what they are worth.
Wow. Yeah. So it sounds like me and you are very similar in that regard. I've always been an individual that has been on this personal development pursuit, if you will, meaning I've sought out the coaching, the consulting, the books, the courses, you name it. I'm very similar to you. I've dumped tens of thousands of dollars into training programs on marketing and sales and scaling, whatever it is. I've just been a student of growing revenue for businesses, for myself, what have you. There's a saying that Alex Hormozy says, you are about $50,000 in an investment away from learning the skills to have a multi-million-dollar business. I mean, you can go out there and there's the right coaching out there that will teach you exactly what you need to do to make $1 million business or a multi-million-dollar business. You just got to figure out how to find it. And in some cases, you might find it in one book. You might find it in one course. But it sounds like me and you are very similar. So I definitely appreciate that about you, that it seems like you've become a student of learning what can drive the needle. And if you're anything like me, and have learned already that is always something that you are always pursuing, that no matter what you've learned today, there's some new things that you can learn tomorrow. But I want to, kind of go back to where you are. So you are a strategic advisor, strategic performance advisor. If you don't mind sharing some of the type of businesses that you work with, and then some of the strategy that you build into their business to help them scale.
Some of the businesses that I like to work with would be people who are in charge of their business. They're not really multi-partnered. They own their own business. They are, everyone has room to go, but preferably making at least $150K a year and looking to hit that next level. They're not really sure what it is that they're lacking. They usually have tried a bunch of different things. They've read a bunch of different books, and they're looking for a more immediate fix to whether it's a cash flow issue or a lead gen issue. And they're just not sure which direction to turn next. And what I like to do is I like to tell them, hey, I'll buy you an hour of my time just so we can sit down and see if it's a possibility for me to even help you out. Because the reality is you're not able to help everyone with everything. You end up helping no one with anything if you take that approach. So I really prefer to work with the person who is motivated, ambitious, and driven to really focus on their business and on themselves, obviously, but really specifically on growing those profit margins, on increasing the number of clients they can fulfill on and improve their product and their service and the journey that they take their end consumer on. So just a couple examples would be anyone who is specifically on the online space, service-based businesses. To give you a couple examples, I've worked with barbers really briefly. I've worked with therapists. I've worked with business coaches. Funny enough, I've had a bunch of them ask me to review their sales calls, review their own personal performance, whether it's because, like I said, I have a fitness background. So a lot of them be like, hey, I'm completely stressed out. I'm extremely unproductive. I get very little done. And I like to get more done in less time. So structuring a day for themselves. And I, as I'm sure you can tell, as I'm sure you know yourself also from the path that you've traveled, you constantly learn new skills and you're able to put them on top of your last skill, and you're able to become a better person in your business, in your personal life because of it. And you're able to relay that onto your clients as you help them.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So, for me, I know when I first start working with a business, typically, because I have the marketing background, a lot of what I do tends to start from that marketing standpoint. I'll come in and I'll take a look at their entire marketing budget, try to understand, what is the message that they're trying to convey to their customer. One of the other areas I look at is what are the profit centers? Like, where are the main areas that this business can make money? There's usually several areas or several profit centers that are built into a business. And oftentimes what I'll find is that a business will say, hey, you know what, we're at capacity. We are doing, so much day in and day out. Our crew is completely tapped. But then when you drill down into it, you'll find that most of the time they're doing this lower quality customer, for lack of better words, this lower value customer, but they'd really like to stack their time focused on this higher value customer. And then it comes down to the marketing. They're universally marketing for all the profit centers rather than being laser focused on the one that makes the most money, that really rings the cash register. And I try to help them, come up with ways of being able to do that. How do we focus on going from 75% of our time is doing this, maybe this service over here when we could be doing this install over here? How do we flip that? How do we get it to where we're really dialed into that? And then once you start making the phone ring for that, how do we maximize those opportunities? Maybe it's how the individuals are answering the phone on the front end. What does the sales call process look like? How are we converting? What type of follow-up do we have in place? I mean, all those things, travel that path. If you get a customer to sign on for a one-time service, how do you then follow up in a way that gets you back into the door to be able to offer them additional programs? But, for you, I'd like to uncover, let's say, I think you mentioned physical therapist. Was that one of the industries you said?
I've dealt with physical therapists, and I've realized that they really work with global businesses. It's very hard to scale them. Local businesses. It's very hard to scale them globally. So as time progressed, like I said, you really pick the clients you want to work with. So for me, I prefer, if I'm going down that route, I prefer like a therapist, like a psychotherapist, a trauma therapist, whatever it may be.
Oh, gotcha.
Because they could do Zoom calls, things like that, versus a physical therapist, you're hands-on. It's quite hard to ship a massage to Germany or Malaysia.
Fair enough. Yep. Sorry. So in that regard, so you go into a business that has that global scalability. I'm curious, like, what does that pathway look like for them? Like, how do you get them to go from maybe focus locally to exploring, hey, there's some of these additional ways of being able to increase your revenue by expanding globally? I'm curious of that process, how you get them to go from a local based business into one that is looking to scale, whether it's nationally or globally.
So, I mean, I'm going to backtrack. I'm first going to answer your question, then I'm going to backtrack and answer the question prior. But first of all, some of them don't even know they have the opportunity to go global. 1, 2, some of them don't even, and not necessarily not the opportunity, they don't have the ambition, or they don't know it's even an option. Like, there was a business that I worked with not too long ago who, let's use a simple marketing agency local. And they'll be like, hey, I can only work with local people because they're local. I can knock on their door. I can ask them what's up. I can figure out what their strategies they're using. I can figure out highest and best use for their specific scenario, and I can help them implement. Mm-hmm. How would I be able to get on a phone call with someone from Canada or California or Florida to do the exact same thing? And my answer to them is there's so many different approaches. People don't utilize social media, which is a problem by itself. I mean, don't make me give the Grant Cardone speech on that. But I actually learned this from Dan Kennedy. He said that if you're trying to get, let's say your ideal client is living in Florida, you can write a newsletter and have it published in a Florida local newspaper stand or whatever it is, and you can have them call you to New York. And now you just got your exact, and you're looked at as an authority because you're able to market to that side of the world or whatever it may be. To your prior question, a lot of people do think they're getting a lot done, and they're doing a lot of things well, and they're getting it done. They're after it. They're hustling, right? The reality is you may be doing a lot of things, but are you doing the right thing? Like you mentioned, is it that you're chasing a bunch of not necessarily, because everyone's valuable. I know you've heard this from Jim Rohn. The question is, how valuable are you to the business world? You could be a valuable member of the community, but the question is to the business world. Are you working at the tasks that are going to give you the highest and best use of your time, the biggest ROI on your time invested, your energy invested, your focus, everything like that, all those good stuff. So a lot of people do get a lot of things done, but are they doing the right thing? And that's really what we want to dial in on. I know a lot of people speak about having your bullseye client, having your bullseye offer, and really hammering that in. The thing that I like to do, because I know that was the question you had, is how do we do that? How do we actually get those specific things done? And it's very simple. You can do it within 5-10 minutes. Take out a piece of paper. You write down what are the 5, 10, 15, 20 things. You brain dump all of them that are going to produce the most cash flow into my business. And that's really what we're after as business owners. What is going to move the needle forward financially so I can take that money and figure out what I want to do with it.
Right.
And it's simple as that. You circle the top 3 to 5 and you hammer away at those projects that are looking at the next shiny object syndrome. And again, it could be boring, but it's what gets the work done. And again, obviously there are some better usages of your time, but you'll get that as you put your time into those ones that you know for a fact are going to bring money to the door.
Yep. So in your experience, what are some of those key things that typically, like I know in my business that there's a handful of things that I tend to see in most local to mid-sized companies. for instance, oftentimes a local to mid-sized company who is self-managing their marketing, they work with a variety of different vendors. And because of that, those vendors typically will come in with like their take on how the marketing should go. Does that make sense? Like they'll come in and say, your message for this should be like this. And
they give, I hate to cut you off, but I have a perfect answer for this, and I'll make it up to you in a second. I'll show you how.
Fair enough.
They have their way of doing things because that's what the person before them did. So when you go to any of these local vendors that are looking to help you implement their product or service into your business, they're telling you, hey, this is going to work for you because it works for everyone else. And the reality is it doesn't work for everyone else. It works for whatever it is, 3 or 10% of the people that they've worked with. And that's the approach they're taking. So the number one thing I would tell you to do is get on the phone with Joseph, because he actually can be there on your team to help you figure out each one of your individual vendors and their approach. And he can help you bundle together to have a very unique, sophisticated, and specific approach that no one else in your market is doing, because he's going to actually help you articulate the benefits from each one of these services that they are offering you and help you customize it to your own usage, and to be able to then produce it as a custom one-size offer for that specific person that you're looking to target.
I will take a plug anytime there's a plug. So yeah, I mean, and that was a great way of summarizing. I mean, that is exactly what I tend to do. Is I typically try to look for, not just the opportunities within the messaging, but oftentimes I found that, every vendor now has a digital program that they offer. And in some cases, there's business owners that are subscribing to a variety of different digital opportunities, if you will, and they're overlapping. They all have different messages. It's just this cluster of different messaging that is going out there. And then they're overpaying because they're buying sometimes 2 and 3 of the same exact thing from a different vendor, and it's just complete overkill. So there's like that streamline. That's what I typically find in most of the businesses that I work with, is that it is just kind of scattered. It's like this scatter of vendors that they're using, and then some inefficiencies. But I'd be curious to hear, what it is that you typically see with the businesses that you work with, and then how you're able to help them overcome some of the, maybe the drawbacks that have been ingrained into their business over the many years that they've been in business, and how you help them either move past those, tweak them, change them, and get them into a position to really start to scale this thing out.
Yeah, I love that question. So there's 2 very simple approaches to really increase revenue in any area. One is to decrease cost, and the other one is to increase profit. And either way, you're putting more money in your pocket. I would tell you, not anyone who, let me structure it properly. A lot of people like to follow the millionaire next door, which is save $5 on your Starbucks coffee, and look at all the ways you can pinch pennies. The reality is, if you can figure out, I had a meeting with someone this morning who, she runs her own business. She's highly successful. She's one of the top in her field. Yet I, in front of her, called her sales rep that pretty much had a 40-second conversation with me that didn't optimize the conversation as well as it could have been. And I told her, the business owner, before I even called, I said, this is how the conversation will go, and this is how long the conversation will last. And she's going to hang up on me because she's not well trained the way she should be. And that's no one else's fault but your own. Now, that could be buying a book for $10 and going through the book. Or, this I got from Dan Kennedy, he said, many people like to spend $10 on a bunch of fluff, when very few people, the wiser people, like to spend $10,000 on just one idea that they can actually implement and run with. And that usually will come with that one-on-one approach from someone who has traveled that path before. So many people will be more than joyful to buy the books for $10. I'm like, I'll read a bunch of fluff and I'll go through it, and I got a lot of information overload, and that's awesome. Versus I can find someone who can specifically tailor a approach that has already worked in the past, specific to me and my business, and has my best interest at heart. And they're going to want me to move forward because they want your client success. That's the reality. Someone like you, someone like me, we're after our students, our clients, our fellow business owners. We want to see them succeed because that helps us succeed. That's really what it's at. Money is great, but like client success is really where it's at, because each one of those will bring you 10 more clients.
You're absolutely right. And in all of my years, and let's just go back from me in the marketing game, it has always been like the top priority has always been, okay, how do I help this company grow their business? Because if that isn't at the front of it, if it's not, like that has to be like the main focus. Like, because to your point, you want that client success, because a success for them is a success for you. It's a client testimonial that you're able to share. It's a pride thing for me. I take pride when I sit down with a client and they say, this is what we were doing annually last year, this is what we're doing annually this year, and that has grown significantly in some cases in numbers during like times of the year where it's normally the slowest. They're having better months than they did in the peak season. Those type of things fire you up when you go in and you're like, wow, if we're really able to increase the revenue in this slow time, traditionally the slow time, imagine what we're going to do 2 months from now, 3 months from now, or 4 months when we get into like the peak season, if we really start to scale out exactly what we're doing right now. But you hit the nail right on the head. It really becomes you almost take it personal. It's like their business. They say, mind your business. It becomes your business. It becomes so personal to you. And when you take that approach, when it becomes, personal, that you need that company to grow their revenue, that's when, one, it'll convey in your conviction when you're sitting down. For me, I'm sitting down with a vendor and I'm saying, look, I need this program. I need it done this way. I need it done right. I need it, our TV commercial to air at these specific times to this specific demographic. I mean, that stuff matters, and it's taking it that personally.
That's exactly right. And, that's one of the big reasons that I came on today's podcast, because I've only heard good things about you and what you do with your clients. And geometric growth is really what it's all about. And that's what goes on around the world. When you mentioned word Joseph. So I understand what you're saying in regards to helping each individual client. When you say you wrap up these packages for them and you help them redistribute, I think that it's a really beautiful thing when it comes down to coming to help each business owner specifically in the time that would specifically be the last time of the year, and actually help them, instead of going through feast and famine like so many unfortunately have to experience. They can actually, there is a better way. There's a different way. There's a better way, and they're not being told the whole truth. There's more to the story. And some people just have to dig a little deeper to find that extra little bit. Yeah.
One thing that I've seen in my years of working with businesses is that sometimes, when you go into their business, you're almost giving them permission to have the shift that they know that they want. Whether it's a management issue, whether it's a management issue or a structural issue or a partner issue, something that may just be slightly throwing things off. And sometimes you come in and you're that outside perspective. You're able to see the problems a lot clearer than they are. Or in some cases, they see the problems. They just don't know how to fix the problems. And you come in and you're able to, in some cases, give them the permission that they're dying to get in order to make the change that they want to make. You get what I'm saying there? Like they know that there's a flaw in their follow-up process. They know that there's a problem in the customer service side or in the scheduling. They know that there's a flaw in some part of their business and they haven't quite figured out how to fix it. Or in some cases, they just think that there's no way to fix it and they've given up on that task as a whole. And you come in and it's just, hey, look, as an outsider looking in, here's a few things that I think you could do to really tweak how you're doing this thing here to fix the problem. And in some cases, it's, hey, you got to get rid of the person that's answering your phone, move her position or whatever it is, because she's a roadblock. Or you've got to maybe add some management in this particular area, whatever it is, like you just are able to help them with that roadblock. But
exactly. I give the example of like a river. If you think about it, the average business owner is going down a river and all they see is what's in front of them. They see the next roadblock. And that's really what business is about. You're solving problems. That's what you're doing for a living. The question is, how valuable are the problems that you're solving? And when you get someone to help you one-on-one and is able to pretty much look at it like from a helicopter, say, hey, you're about to counter the rock on the left 200 yards forward. make sure that you tilt your boat a little bit sideways, you'll go right through it. That's really what a lot of people are missing out on. And sometimes, yes, it could be that self-talk, which is like, listen, I don't know what my mom's going to think about me. I don't know what my cousin's going to think about me. I don't know what my next door neighbor's going to think about me. Whatever it may be. Maybe I do it and it doesn't work. What if I throw money into this campaign and it just doesn't work out for me? And they don't ask themselves the flip side of the question because they're so loss averse, which is like, what do I have to gain from it? I understand the loss and I understand that, hey, it might not work. But I also understand that this one small, slight shift can put another $1 million in my pocket at the end of the year. Very likely. Because the reality is it's most of the time you're spending all these years learning these skills, becoming the person that you are meant to become. And you just take that one little, the little needle out of the dam, let's call it, and the water starts flowing. Exploding is the word we should use, because the whole dam will break. And that's really what you're looking at when you come into a business and you say, hey, I see that one roadblock. I know you don't see it the way I do because I've actually encountered that roadblock 10, 15, 20 other times. And I already know how to not only jump that roadblock, but we can jump the next 3 to 5 roadblocks. And I think you should take this approach. Now, that's just my advice to you. You can decide to follow it or not, but I'm just letting you know, Tom, Sally, and Bob that have taken that exact approach, this is the result that they've gotten. And it's been fairly successful for them. I think that you should really give this a go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's definitely one benefit in working with a lot of business owners, especially when, I found my niche, if you will, is to work with local to mid-sized companies, specifically in the service-based industry. Don't get me wrong. I like working with, a mix, but service-based industries, like home services, have just been something that I just kind of fell in love with. And that's my roots of working for a lumber company, working with your local general contractors and subcontractors. It was kind of baked into me for whatever reason. And, when you work with a lot of businesses that tend to be in that same field, you learn from, these businesses over here encountered these problems. This is how they fixed it. I mean, there's so much that you can learn from each one of those businesses individually, and then how you overcome certain hurdles within those businesses as well applies to exactly what you're saying, that you've seen what has been tried and true and what works to be able to try to combat it within other companies. But Daniel, as we get close to the end of this episode, I want to know, for any business that hears this episode and they're thinking, you know what, I love this concept, this idea of being able to take my business and scale it, whether it's nationally or globally. What does that process look like? If they want to reach out to you, I know you said a phrase that I thought was brilliant. Let me buy you an hour of my time. If somebody was looking for an hour of your time, whether that was like an initial coaching, what's the process to reach out to you? And then I am a little bit curious what that intro kind of looks like when you initially start working with somebody.
Of course. So, I mean, for anyone who's looking to reach me, Facebook would probably be the best approach. I mean, that's really where I tend to be myself fully. I don't really have many social medias. I like to be where I am and be fully there. Instead of having my fingers in 10 different pies. And that's only because I'm young. I'll be very honest with you. I don't not plan on going to TikTok and all the other things. It's just that I'm not geared to that at this current moment. I'm very, like you can appreciate, is when I'm with the client, I like to be all there. I'm not texting 10 others. I'm really just focused on that one person and getting him the results and then moving to the next. So as I progress through my business journey, I've realized that Facebook is really the platform for me. But I'd love to answer that question really briefly in regards to how do you scale, so many people are talking about why and what, etc., but no one really gives you that how. I think it's very important that we go through that. But really briefly, for any business owner that is listening, you really do want to focus on what you do best and delegate the rest. That's really what it comes down to, because everything else, if you focus on those weaknesses, you try to write your name with your left hand, I mean, it's unnecessary. You can sit there for the next 10 years and learn how to write with your left hand, or you can sub out the writing. Like, there's just certain things that make sense and certain things that don't. You have to be able to take that smaller step back and say, hey, listen, I'm just not good at marketing. I really have to outsource my marketing. I'm not good at writing out contracts. I have to give it to a lawyer. I mean, that should be like step one. For
Great.
But in regards to the how, I'm sure you've heard this before, but there's 2 ways to go out of business. Because if you want to know how to grow a business, you got to know how you could go out of business. 2 ways to go out of business is not have enough clients. The pipeline's empty. You hear crickets. The other way to go out of business is depending on the business owner, but you drop 10,000 clients on my front door, I'm not able to service that. But that's because I can only work with a select few amount of people at a time. I give my all to the people that I work with. And that's the reason why I'm not able to to work with 10,000 clients. I have to have them fill out forms, wait on certain lists so that we can see if they're even a good fit. But with the average business owner, if you take a pizza store, for example, and you drop 1,000 clients on the front door, they're going out of business because they can't manufacture that much pizza. And the amount of bad reviews and the amount of people that will cause a riot down the street. So those are the two ways you're really going to go out of business. Too many clients, too little clients. How do you grow a business, especially exponentially and especially to have geometric growth over the long run? So most people know this is they want to get more clients. How do I get more money? I get more clients. I get more clients through the door, and that's how my business is going to grow, or whatever it may be. I get more of my widgets sold. They don't take into account the other two real questions that you want to be asking yourself is how much does the client actually spend on each widget? How long do I have them for? So how often do they buy and how much are they buying? So it's really a two-part. You can tie it into one, but it's how do I get them to buy more and how do I get them to buy more often? More and more often. So a lot of people want to have a ton of clients come through the door, but then they don't realize there's a chokehold to that as well. The other side of that coin is how do I get a fewer amount of people to buy a higher quality product or a higher quantity product? How do I get them to buy more of that product or service?
Yep. You know, and you're 100% right. That is my experience completely. You know, oftentimes when I work with a business, they are going through that same thing. You know, there's a couple of different ways to increase revenue. You can increase the quantity of customers or you can increase the value of each customer. And more often than not, the better for the business and better for the customers is that you're increasing the value per customer, meaning you are bringing on, maybe it's the same amount or maybe even a little bit less customers, but that customer is of a higher value and you've just increased the value of what it is that you're offering so that that customer is getting the absolute best service that you can provide for that category. And they're paying a price that is equal or less sometimes than what the true value of that is, but it's still a significant value. It's a high value and at a price point that makes it so that you can still get out there and provide a high quality of service. That's typically what I try to look for when I work for a business is, okay, what are the products that we sell? And then how do we sell these in a way that we can increase the revenue and maybe stay at a similar level of type of customer that we have? Depending on capability capacity. But
of course. But Joseph, I agree with that 100% because at the end of the day, everyone's looking for a great deal and that's what you're getting them. And if you could increase the value that you provide to them, you become known as the expert in that field of whatever it is that you're offering. And whether it's a local or a global field, whatever it may be, you become that expert. And just a pro tip for anyone who's listening, specifically the business owners, would be referral-based marketing. Those people specifically that your clients are saying, hey, since, again, like I said, a great example of less is more. Since you're working with less clients, you're putting a lot more focus on those clients, which means they will get a better result. Instead of you trying to get 100 clients or 100,000 clients results, you can get 10 clients outstanding results. And they tell their 10 friends and they tell their 10 friends. And a little secret about referral-based marketing is it's free. And usually most things that are free are not good. But when it comes to referral-based marketing, the reality is the word of mouth that you get, they buy more often. They're less of a headache. They're going to refer their friends because that's how they came. So how'd you meet Joseph? Well, someone referred me to him because he's outstanding. So I'm most probably going to refer him to my next friend because I got outstanding results with him because he spent all of this focus helping me increase profits.
I'm going to, before we wrap up this show, I want to dive into that referral-based marketing. I want you to talk to me about, one, what it is for those listening. Two, how do they implement referral-based marketing into their business if it's something that they've completely overlooked?
Joseph, I'll give you a few examples, but this can be a whole nother podcast by itself.
Fair enough.
There's so many different systematic and strategic approaches that you can take when it comes to referral-based marketing. At the very least, you can preset I know you may have heard of the book of Persuasion. So I can take a page out of that book for a second and go towards how when I pick up the phone, it could be, hey, thank you for calling X pizza store. How may I help you today? Versus, hey, thank you for calling the pizza store. Who referred you? So now we're setting the criteria as in when people call us, they're calling us because they get referred to us. And you're already setting that preset set mind frame as in like, hey, we're going to service you. And when we get you the outstanding results that we know we will get you because we pride ourselves on client results, we want you to give us referrals. That would be just one thing. You can be super creative with it. I mean, I've seen people do, like, they'll give a lottery ticket for like a doctor's office. I'm not sure exactly where I got this from, but I think it was a doctor or a dentist that for every referral you bring them in, they'll send you a lottery ticket. So now it's like, ooh, there's excitement, there's surprise, there's uncertainty. I don't know what's there. Like, will I win? Will I lose the lottery? Something like that. You can do so many things. You can say, hey, the one that comes to my mind is, I mean, I don't like giving discounts. I'm going to veer away from that one. But you can say, hey, like I said, I only work with a certain amount of clients. So I'll tell my clients right off the bat, listen, I'm filling up for this month. I'm filling up for next quarter, whatever it is. Is there anyone that you want to refer to me before I fill my slots up? Like, because I only have a certain amount of time in the day. I'm not able to help everybody.
Right.
Is there anyone that you want to send me? Something like that. You could set it as a condition of doing business with you. It's like, hey, if I get you X results, but you switch that wording to if to when, because you ultimately, you know, you're going to get them those results. Otherwise, you're not taking them on. You're saying, hey, when I get you these results, you're going to have to get me 2 clients. Or it could be, when I get you these results, I'll give you 10% off. Like I said, I don't like the discounts, but it's like, hey, when I get you these results, you have to bring me 2 clients. So it becomes a condition of doing business. You can have it be more so as in like, when you bring in the initial contract to them signing on with you, it's like, hey, you're getting this. This is what you can expect from us. This is what we're going to expect from you. And not only that, you go a step ahead and you'll say, for every person that you refer, they'll get a discount. So you're not giving them a discount, but you give their referral a discount. So now they're motivated to help a friend. They want to be valuable to say, hey, Joseph got me these outstanding results. I highly suggest you go to Joseph. And not only that, you mention him, he'll give me 15% off. So now they're motivated to provide value to their community or their friends.
Yep. I'm also, I love every idea you just shared there. I'm also a big fan of creating contests within a Salesforce on getting referrals.
I love that.
I actually, here in my office where the studio is, the guy right across from me runs a Keller Williams brokerage. And
nice.
When I went in to introduce myself, which I've actually known the guy for quite some time, but I just went in, hey, you know, we're moving in next door, we're building out the studio. We got talking, and towards the end, he said, and it was so beautiful because in my head, I'm like, I teach this, so I know, you know, where it came from. He was like, hey, I'm part of this networking group. We're in this contest right now to see who can get the most referrals. All I'm looking for is 2 names of 2 people that you know that may be interested in selling their home or buying a home. Who comes to mind? And it's like,
I love it.
You know, it's beautiful because the contest may or may not exist. Maybe it does, but in my head, I'm like, I know that trick because it might not even really be, because I've used that in my career. You know, we have this contest, and normally that contest is just like me and a friend are like competing on who can get the most referrals. It's not like some company-wide official contest, but it's just an easy icebreaker to be able to ask somebody for help. And I think instinctively people want to help. You know, I am a firm believer that most people are good, that all people have the qualities of good. And I think most people want to help people. And I think especially if you go out there and you're doing, let's say it's home service, you do a great job. And especially if you can find a way to do something additional, you know, I'll use pest control. If you go out there and you're out there for, let's say it's ants, and you notice that there's a mosquito issue and you say, hey, just, you know, I wanted to let you know that I also sprayed out back for mosquitoes. I saw that you had the swing set for the kids. I sprayed, don't worry, it's no charge today. That reciprocity, you ask them for a referral, they want to immediately give it to you because, and I'm not saying always do good things to expect good things, but I'm saying that people will typically, you know, they will respond in kind. That reciprocity, they'll almost feel like, oh man, I've got to help this person. Not that that's the angle you want to go at it by, but, you know, giving unconditionally, I think is the way to go. But if you do that initial give, oftentimes people will want to respond in kind. But as something as easy as, hey, would you mind giving me 2 referrals? We're in the middle of this contest. You know, this might be the icebreaker that kicks me over the edge, whatever it is. But, you know, that was just one that I thought that I would trickle in there and add to that referral based marketing. But Daniel, I know I've probably exhausted a good bit of your time. I know I tried to say, each episode I try to keep about 25, 30 minutes. I think we ran over, but as we wrap up, I know that individuals that are looking for you, they can find you on Facebook. And I also wanted to see if you could share your website. That way, if people are trying to go to the website as well, they have an opportunity.
I appreciate that. The website's under renovation, so it doesn't even pay. Like I said, everything's just the fastest through Facebook, because I think that's really what people want to hang out. They don't really want to read sales copy as much. But again, I could be wrong. That's why I'm actually paying to get the website refurnished. So I would say Facebook is just the easiest way as of right now. In 3 months or 2 months, probably, hopefully even a month, it'll change.
Okay, cool. Well, Daniel, I appreciate you taking the time to cut it up, talk about scaling, increasing revenue, referral-based marketing. I thought it was a beautiful touch to close out the episode. Definitely looking forward to connecting with you as we get this episode rolled out there. And for those listening on the website, if you go to lavahotpodcast.com, on there, you'll see a search icon. If you just search for Daniel's name, you will basically everything that I will have, whether it's the audio, the video, everything will be housed there. We'll also have a digital profile built out for him, as well as the link to the Facebook page and every other platform that you can try to connect with him with. But yeah, with that, I'll close out this episode. And Daniel, I appreciate you taking the time and look forward to connecting with you.
My pleasure, Joseph.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Lava Hot Podcast with Joseph Connell Jr. Do you want to level up your business in 2022? Then visit us at golavahot.com for a free marketing analysis.